floor to the Russian Federation.
Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, I would like to thank the briefers, Ms. Lorraine Sievers and Ms. Karen Langren, for their comprehensive briefings. We echo those colleagues who have recognized Kenzo Shima and Edward Locke for their contributions to this matter. We also thank Ms. Ronder King and the entire delegation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for their statement, as well as for the able leadership of the Security Council Informal Working Group on Documentation and Other Procedural Questions. For a number of years now, the Security Council has been discussing its working methods in an open format with the participation of a wide range of UN member states. We note at the same time that for the second year in a row, this discussion takes place under the presidency of Estonia. We agree with the importance of increasing coordination between the Security Council and a wide range of member states. We are confident that today's debate, as well as the very fact of an external assessment of the current state of affairs, will make a special contribution to the activities of the aforementioned Security Council Working Group and will contribute to its enrichment with new ideas. This is, of course, on the understanding that the working methods themselves and any steps to modify them are the ownership of Council members. The issue of the Security Council's working methods is a very sensitive one. Russia has consistently maintained that any changes in this area should focus on truly increasing the Council's effectiveness and efficiency in executing its core task of maintaining international peace and security. Implementing poorly developed initiatives that ignore the specifics of the Council's work is not only not conducive to achieving results, but on the contrary, often does harm. We welcome the efforts of the delegation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to improve the working methods of the Security Council. We have taken note of its intention to amend Presidential Note 507, which is of great importance as a compendium of Council working practices and is actively used by non-permanent members as a serious source. We are prepared to fully assist the delegation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in this painstaking work. We also believe that there should be no undue haste in the matter. Efforts in this area must be coordinated and focused on reaching consensus. We note the growing interest in the procedural aspects of the Council's activities on the part of its non-permanent members. This undoubtedly helps to develop best practices for the Council's activities. Mr. President, 2020 has proved to be a difficult year for all mankind. The world found itself face-to-face with a new and previously unknown challenge, the COVID-19 pandemic. The ensuing sanitary and epidemiological restrictions unavoidably impacted the work of the UN, in particular its Security Council. However, despite these new difficulties, the Security Council was able to prove its ability to swiftly adapt to the new situation. In a timely manner, special temporary measures were developed for the uninterrupted continuation of its work. We strictly adhered to this modus operandi during all the subsequent months. As the situation in New York changed and the stages of reopening began, Russia advocated the prompt return of Council members to the chamber, subject to the necessary precautions. To this end, we supported the holding of the first in-person meetings of the councils in the ECOSOC chamber under the presidency of Germany in July last year. Our own presidency of the council in October 2020 was guided by the same principle. It was successfully carried out with the use of the newly installed plexiglass partitions in the chamber. The coronavirus pandemic has provided us with an excellent opportunity to assess the important role of the Council's face-to-face discussions of the international agenda. It became clear that no alternative working methods could replace the in-person interaction of Council members, and I think all will agree with me here. We're pleased to see the Council's gradual return to normal work in the chamber. We believe here that the VTC format used throughout 2020 and partially in 2021 worked only on a temporary basis and in extraordinary circumstances. As was originally agreed upon when it was introduced, the meetings held in this format cannot be considered formal meetings of the Security Council, either in procedural, legal, or logical terms. Accordingly, we do not see a need to institutionalize these temporary measures. In the event of a recurrence of a crisis similar to last year's, we have experience, and we have an answer enshrined in the presidential letters of the Security Council to which we can always turn. Mr. President, we do not deny that VTC meetings have their advantages, and we accept their continued use for organizing informal meetings. In particular, they help to significantly expand the range of those who can provide the Council with important information for decision-making. I refer to such mechanisms in the Council's arsenal as interactive dialogues and informal ARIA formula meetings. We are convinced that these formats should be used only to better inform Security Council members on issues on the Council's agenda. At the same time, we do not support any hybrid formats which risk bringing unpredictable and serious legal consequences for the Security Council and the UN as a whole. Mr. President, we continue to draw attention to the Council's excessive documentation workload. Every year, the Council produces several hundred documents. The added value of some of them is unfortunately questionable. The often observed excessive penchant for micromanaging resolutions is also not helpful. We are convinced that the final products of the Security Council should be concise, clear, and easy to understand, and most importantly, action-oriented. In recent years, the practice of considering thematic issues in the Council has become more frequent, particularly issues which, according to the UN Charter, fall under the purview of the General Assembly, ECOSOC, and other bodies of our global organization. This violates the established division of labor and distracts the Security Council from addressing its priorities on which it can and should take concrete decisions. In the context of evenly distributing responsibilities within the Council, the question of penholdership is particularly important. We have consistently advocated expanding the circle of penholders, primarily with non-permanent members. We are guided in this by Presidential Note 507, which states that any member of the Security Council may be a penholder, and more than one Council member may act as co-penholders. Individual members of the Council should not consider certain countries or even regions as their fiefdoms, nor act as mentors on certain issues. We are open to constructive interaction with Council members on this issue. On a separate note, we would like to reiterate the inadmissibility of the practice of artificial deadlines in the Council's work. It is no secret that the dates for the adoption of most Council resolutions become known early on at the stage when the Council decides on its program of work for the month. However, many drafts continue to be received unjustifiably late, which does not allow for a comprehensive expert assessment, let alone full-fledged consultations. Sometimes it seems as though the penholders do this intentionally, believing that in their rush, colleagues may simply not notice problematic parts in the text. The wording of Security Council resolutions sometimes changes mere minutes before the vote. The resulting output consists of half-baked products that ignore the concerns of Council members and provide unclear instructions to the Secretariat. We believe that all this is unacceptable. We will continue fighting against such tactics and tricks and do not rule out the possibility that in the end we will have to evaluate the effectiveness of penholders' work according to these parameters. Mr. President, the issue was also raised of Council visits. We stand for resuming this useful practice. These visits help Security Council members not only be heard, but to form their own impressions on what is happening on the ground, and to engage with key stakeholders in any given situation on the Council's agenda. This is important to all of us without exception. At the same time, we should also understand that a lack of representation of certain states during these visits could be construed as a political signal. That is why I believe it would be optimal for Council missions to include all members. As for virtual and hybrid visits, they can hardly allow us to achieve the goals that we set for such visits. Finally, by way of conclusion, because the issue was raised today of the right of veto, I would like to underscore that, in our view, this does not pertain to Security Council working methods. Rather, it is the cornerstone of the entire architecture of the Security Council and key to achieving balanced decisions in the Council that have a high chance of being implemented as effectively as possible. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.